You're listening to All in the Industry, an independent podcast dedicated to behind-the-scenes talent in the hospitality industry, hosted and produced by me, Shari Bayer. Since initially launching in 2014, we have broadcast more than 400 episodes, and now we're excited to be on our new platform. To learn more, visit allintheindustry.com. Support for this episode comes from Bayer Public Relations, a full-service PR, consulting, and marketing agency based in New York City, specializing in culinary and hospitality. Founded in 2003 by me, Shari Bayer, we are a company built on dedication, integrity, and positive thinking, combined with a genuine passion for what we do. BPR, be seen, be heard, be known. To learn more, visit BayerPublicRelations.com. Well, hello. Welcome to All in the Industry. I'm your host and producer, Shari Bayer, and this is our 416th episode of this series, which is dedicated to behind-the-scenes talent in the hospitality industry. Today, I have a special show with a chef and owner at a 1 Michelin-star and Green Star restaurant in Copenhagen, Denmark, where I was on location, and I had the privilege of dining at his restaurant a few days before this interview. And I will tell you more details and introduce him fully in a moment. But first, as I do in every show, I will start out with my PR tip, and then we will have my interview with a speed round, and I will close out with my solo dining experience. As the founder of Bayer Public Relations, I'm going to tip the show off with my PR tip of the week. So today's tip is to discover what working style works best for you, and then stick with it. Whether you're interested in working for yourself or for someone else, in a more corporate environment or something more casual, it's up to you. Everyone's preferences are different. But it's important to figure out what makes you feel best and most productive and excited to be on the job. Because there isn't one size fits all for work or for life. What's right for you might not be right for someone else. We are all unique and our styles are different. So let's remember to follow our guts and listen to that inner voice that tells us where we are truly comfortable and at our best. It may take some time to test the waters, so to speak, but once we know, we know. And let's trust that and move forward, as finding our true work style is as important as the work itself. That's my tip today. Okay, I'm excited about today's show, as it's a very special interview that I did on a recent trip in the late spring to Copenhagen, Denmark. And first, I'll share, I was there attending the MAD Symposium, which was its 7th version, and this year's theme was Build to Last. And it was my second time attending the MAD Symposium. I had been at the last one, which was 7 years ago, believe it or not. And that was fantastic. It was amazing to be back, and the energy was incredible. And it was a wonderful 2 days of programming in Copenhagen, led by Renee Redzepi and No More Projects and team. And it took place outside on a large field where it's been in the past, under its iconic red circus tent. And the caliber of people in attendance was absolutely amazing. There were chefs from all around the world there, as well as industry professionals and top journalists and restaurateurs. And some of the speakers were Jose Andres and Thomas Keller. And it was a real honor to be there. And I was lucky that I got to see many chefs who I know and some who I met for the first time and some who are in my Chef-Wise book. And it was really exciting to be a part of. The food was delicious, of course, and the vibe. I didn't dine at Noma on this trip, but they bring the magic of Noma pretty much to this experience. I mean, it's very different than dining at the restaurant because it's an outdoor 2-day event, but the hospitality is there, and I hope to return to Noma on another trip. I've been there a few times, and it is always so special, and that restaurant has inspired so many people and our industry. So congratulations to Renee and the entire MAD team, including Melina and Lisa and Mark and Peter and Jenny. Wonderful to see all of you, and what an amazing production. You should be very proud. And again, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing what comes next with MAD and hopefully be back for the next one, and wishing you all the best with all things MAD. And also, while I was in Copenhagen, I was able to attend Rasmus Monk and his team at Alchemist's new Spora Forum, an inaugural event on the future of food. And I had met Rasmus last year when I was fortunate to dine at Alchemist, which was epic, to say the least. And I also got to know him a bit from attending events around the world. I interviewed him at the Best Chef Awards 2024 in Dubai as part of my On the Road show, episode 403, where he received the #1 spot on that list, which is incredible. And Alchemist has many accolades, including 2 Michelin stars, and is currently #5 on the world's 50 best restaurants list 2025. I just saw him in Turin. He was there for that. And also, if you recall, I did sit down with him after my dinner at Alchemist and have a long conversation about his career. And that is episode 391 if you want to go back to the archives. And so it was very special to be there as a part of this first conference that took place the day after the MAD Symposium. And it also had a very impressive roster of chefs and media and industry professionals in attendance. And the space he's using was formerly Matt Orlando's restaurant, Amas, which I had dined at twice back in the day and have great memories of that. And Matt was also at the MAD conference, and I got to see him for the first time since my book came out. He is a part of Chef-Wise. So that was cool. And he has some new projects he's working on. So I look forward to hearing more about those. And the MAD Symposium is pretty much in the backyard of that space. So everything is pretty connected there in Copenhagen. I guess you could say it's a small, big city, like most places around the world, where, especially in our industry, it seems everyone is connected, and it's a beautiful community to be a part of. So with Spora Forum, it was a full day conference with presentations and a fantastic lunch that I talk about a little later in the show. And there were also snacks and beautiful cocktails and breakfast in the morning. They fed as well as chefs do. And it was very educational and great to be a part of this new Spora network. And I look forward to seeing how Spora, as a global food research center in Copenhagen, continues to progress. And big congratulations to Rasmus and Mette and the entire Alchemist and Spora team. And thank you again for having me. I am truly grateful and hope to be back at the next one. So these events were primarily why I was in Copenhagen, or a part of the reason. Of course, I'm always there to eat and to meet chefs and be a part of the culinary community. That is why I travel. That's why I do this show. I love meeting people, talking to people, and bringing you culinary stories from around the world. So, with that, today my guest is Nick Curtin. He is the chef and owner of Alouette in Copenhagen, Denmark, a 1 Michelin-star and Green Star fine dining restaurant rooted in full circle sustainability, offering a tasting menu journey through Denmark's rich culinary heritage, blending tradition with innovation. Now in its second incarnation, Alouette sits within a beautiful building opposite the King's Garden and offers a menu built around top quality ingredients that have been rigorously restored from hand-picked producers, delivered with the story of its well-balanced components and their origins. As I mentioned, I had the opportunity to dine at Alouette in May, a couple days before sitting down with Nick for this conversation, and I had a truly outstanding solo dining experience, which we will talk more about on this show. As a chef who spent many years cooking in New York City, somehow our paths didn't cross until now. Although I was familiar with Nick's name and restaurants he worked at, and I have a feeling he cooked for me while he was in New York City without my knowledge, perhaps. So it was very special to get to hear his story, his background, and what led him to open Alouette in Copenhagen. And I'll leave it at that. Our conversation is a good hour, so this show is a bit longer than my usual shows, but I hope you enjoy listening, and I will come back and share a new solo dining experience. So here is my conversation with Nick Curtin at Alouette in Copenhagen. Enjoy. Well, hello. Will you please tell my listeners your name and restaurant here in Copenhagen?
Sure. My name is Nick Curtin, and I'm the chef and owner of restaurant Alouette.
Alouette, beautiful restaurant. And I'm going to come back to the whole story of this place. But before I do, I just want to know the name Alouette. Where does that come from?
It's a name that stems from an idea about cultural boundaries. In World War I, actually, let me zoom back. When we were trying to open the restaurant in its original location, we had a lot of people asking, is it going to be French? Is it going to be Danish? Is it going to be American? And in truth, we felt like it was none of those things and all of them simultaneously. And we were reading about World War I, and there was when Canadian, American, and British soldiers were stationed in France, they were taught that song, Alouette, chantez l'Alouette. And they went home and they taught it to their kids and their kids' kids and so on and so forth. So if you start humming that song almost anywhere on the planet, people chip in. Mm-hmm. And I learned it from my grandfather, who was not a Frenchman. So I think the idea behind that song is the same idea behind the food, which is that maybe you could take a finger and you could point back and you could say this thing is French, or this thing is Japanese, or this thing is Danish, this thing is American. But in the modern day, culture is more mixed than that. And if it's part of someone's upbringing or someone's life, it belongs to them a little bit as well, I think. And it was the same with the food here.
I love that. And I love that then we started off this interview with you singing a little bit.
Yeah, it's a low bar to get me singing, honestly. Any excuse.
Awesome.
Give me a shot and we're doing karaoke in the next 2 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I like to start with my guests and find out about their background. So you want to take us back a little bit. Where did you grow up and when did you get the inkling that you wanted to be a chef?
Sure. So I grew up and down the East Coast, born in Ohio, but then lived in Virginia and then Rhode Island, and then moved to New York to go to university. I was really passionate about food when I was in Rhode Island as a high school kid. The kitchen was where my family collected. My mom's from the South. We did canning. We made our own pickles. We would all cook together, all do dishes together. My dad would sit in a chair by the fireplace next to the kitchen, and we'd all talk. And that felt like the heart of the home to us. And when I went to university, that passion kind of snowballed. And I was studying political science and philosophy. And I met a couple of guys who invited me to compete in an Iron Chef style competition at school. And
Cooking?
Cooking, yeah.
Okay, because Iron Chef. I don't know. Were you doing triathlon there? But cooking competition. Iron Chef.
Iron Chef. So we had to create dishes and give them to a jury, and we did pretty well. But they were both in the industry already, and I had never worked in a kitchen, and it was really exciting. Things were hot, things were sharp. We were saying backs and sharp and behind. And after that, I knew that I just really wanted to try it. I went and worked for a guy named Matt Jennings. He had just opened a restaurant, a bistro in Providence where I'd grown up called La Laiterie. He turned out to be an enormously successful chef in New England and was an incredible mentor. He took me in, I knew nothing. But that was where I got the bug. And I just kept cooking all the way through university and never stopped.
And then what? You didn't go to cooking school. You got your training in kitchens.
Yeah, I felt like it was important for me to have a multifaceted education. And I was already on that track where I was already completing a degree. But I utilized every free moment that I had to apprentice in kitchens. I had thought about culinary school, but I looked to all the chefs that at that time, this is the early 2000s, all the chefs that we looked up to then, none of them had gone to culinary school. They had all done an apprenticeship model. And the thought of going to culinary school and spending, if you go to CIA, I don't know, $50,000, $60,000 a year, to then kind of end out in the same position that I was in already. I was staging in kitchens next to kids who were starting out from the culinary school, and I knew the same things that they knew. I had to fill in some of the gaps on my own. I had to practice a lot, but if I was vigilant and if I pushed myself, I could learn by doing, and that was what I wanted, and that's what I felt like was the best track for me, and so I just. Yeah, the moment that I graduated university, I was just in kitchens 24/7. I was going to NYU, so I was there already.
City school kid, right there in NYU.
Yeah, I was.
So you were in it. Okay.
I was in the thick of it, absolutely, and that made it really easy to just every moment that I had, I could be. I I spent time with Sam Mason at Taylor. I was working at.
I went there to eat.
Yeah. That was a super cool restaurant.
Very cool on that little street in Soho.
And the kitchen there was incredible. You had, let's see, it was Sam, Fran Derby, who he had an incredible pedigree. Ryan, who went on to run a series of restaurants. I can't remember all the names right now. He's got some Spanish restaurants in. I'll look it up later. But just had an incredible kitchen of people who were all extremely well trained, and I just got to, soak up knowledge from them for a short period of time. I spent a lot of time at Perry Street, where I would eventually work full time for a while.
That's an amazing restaurant with John George and Cedric too.
This was before Cedric was the chef. So Greg Brannon was the executive chef there. who was also the creative director for the JG Group. And it was in the building. I don't know if John George still lives there, but it was in the building where he was living. So he would pop in all the time. And then it was being run by Eric Battis, who was a very young chef who had trained under Kragh for years and had a very quick trajectory and was running that kitchen.
Yeah, well, Kragh is still with him. I mean, one thing with John George I know is he's had a lot of his team has been with him 10, 15, 20, 30 years. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been very good at building rigorous corporate structures and sort of identifying talent and lifting those people up and putting them in roles that really suit them. And Kragh was a really creative guy, very intense individual. But that was a very formative experience for me. Especially, that was the first time in the US that I had worked with recipes that were in grams. So you would be doing giant batches of things. I mean, 30, 40 liters of a soup or a sauce, because you were serving hundreds of people. But you could taste, because you were just constantly training yourself on the palate of something. I could taste whether or not somebody had strained the citrus juice, maybe 30 grams of citrus juice for 40 liters of soup. I could tell if the pulp hadn't been strained out because the acidity wasn't as bright as you anticipated. And that was really eye-opening, to be working with that kind of recipe precision. I had never done that before.
And where'd you go after that?
I went and worked for a guy named Jack Lamb, who ran a series of restaurants in the East Village. He ran Jack's Luxury Oyster Bar, Jewel Baco, and Degustation.
Amazing. I mean, we were spoiled in New York City with the sushi places we have, but Jewel Baco was a jewel for a long time. We had, I remember dining there.
Yeah, it really was. And it was sort of, now, Michelin level sushi restaurants are almost a dime a dozen in New York. Of course, you pay an arm and a leg, but Jewel Baco was at the cutting edge of that. There was sort of, I think it was Masa and Jewel Baco and one or two other places in the city.
There weren't as many, for sure. I mean, I think we had, I don't know, I've been in New York over 25 years. We always had great sushi, but right now, it's like you can't even get to every place. There's so many, but it's a good problem. It's not even a problem.
I mean, now there's sushi that's abundant at a high level, but also a high cost. I think what was exceptional about Jewel Baco was that it was in the East Village, which was saturated with all-you-can-eat sushi restaurants, essentially, where you would have these sushi happy hours, and everything was crazy cheap, and the quality was pretty middling. And then Jack went and made this pretty affordable sushi omakase setup, and it was an exceptional meal, and he was really an intuitive host, and created these very special, unique restaurants and identified intensely talented chefs. He had Wesley Genevart running Degustation for many years. Wes, was an enormous talent. He had Jack's Luxury Oyster Bar, which had a ton of cred if you knew about it. Never really reached a wider audience, but always was packed. And Brendan McHale was the chef there for years. Just these exceptional, really special, very New York restaurants. And I worked for both. I worked for Jack on and off, actually. First at Jack's Luxury Oyster Bar as a sous chef, and then later I came back and helped him out at Degustation for a while. He was changing chefs after Wesley had left, and they just needed some support. And Jack was an incredible mentor. I learned a lot in those restaurants. That was the smallest kitchen I have ever worked in. We had 2 induction burners and like a water bath and an oven that was, 2 by 2 feet. It was nothing. but we made magic out of that. And it was there actually at Jack's Luxury Oyster Bar that I got I met a couple of people who were looking to open a restaurant in Lower Manhattan in Tribeca. They had a space. They loved food. And they asked me to run it. And we went back and forth, and what it landed on was that we were going to be a cocktail bar, and that we would do tasting menus for 16 guests a night around a horseshoe-shaped bar, and we would do it twice. And then we would do a la carte for, the guests sitting in the rest of the bar. We had a kitchen that was, 20 square feet. It was nothing. And the restaurant was called Compose. I was 23 years old. I was crazy young. For the first time, I had to run a menu, run a team, figure out food cost. I was in well over my head, but it was a super formative experience, and it's also where I met my wife. So, it was an amazing place.
So special place. And then how long were you there, and what led you to Rosette? Was that after that?
So Compose was about a year.
Okay.
Like I said, I was in over my head, but I had a lot of disagreements with the ownership and the management after some time there. And I could feel that my profile was rising, but that we weren't growing in the same way. So I said, I'm going to go elsewhere. Then I went and ran Acme as the chef de cuisine. I came in about 6 months after they had opened.
Is that with Mads?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been to I just went back to Illis.
Yeah. I went to Illis in the November after they opened. So that was like a year and a half ago. I had an extraordinary meal there.
I had a really nice meal when it first opened, but I just went back a couple weeks ago because they did a collab with Matthew Leitner.
Yeah.
Remember Matt Leitner?
Yeah, I do know Matt.
And it was really great.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's such a cool space. I think it's very mess. I think the food he's always played with this sort of beautiful rusticity. And it just, as a meal, it felt very tactile. Like I just felt really in the food. Yeah. And I loved it there.
And the space is
it's an incredible space. Yeah.
Okay, so you were at Acme.
Yeah, so I worked with Mess. I ran that kitchen for a year. And then I went to Rosette. Not quite directly, but pretty darn close. And that was actually meant to just be a consultancy. I was supposed to go there and help them set it up. And at that point, we had already determined that we were going to move to Denmark. We had gotten married and we had filed paperwork, and we were very honest with the owners. I said, look, I'm out of here. You get me for maybe 8 months. And then when the paperwork comes through, I'm going to pick up and leave probably next summer.
Why? Is this where your wife is from?
Yes. So my wife is Danish, but she's from the western side of Denmark. And we were just ready for a change. I had been working like a madman and
in tiny kitchens.
in tiny kitchens. But, they talk about Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours, as that's how long it takes to be a master. You go through that time really fast when you're working 100 hours a week. But at some point when you start thinking about what is it that I want out of my life, it wasn't being in the back of a tiny kitchen with no windows 100 hours a week. I wanted to be able to have a family, spend time with that family, spend time with my new wife. And I felt like I was in a wheel that just kept turning, and I needed to jump off of it and find some new track for myself. And Camilla also had an incredible career going, but she was also ready for a change. She had been working since she was 14 in her job, and there we were in our mid-20s, and we both needed a shift in trajectory. And so we had determined we were moving to Denmark, and we met Ron Castellano, who was an architect who had sort of rejuvenated this Two Bridges area of New York. This is before Dimes Square. Dimes had just opened. The cafe had just opened. They were starting to work on the hotel that would become 9 Orchard. He had redesigned the Ford building. He was running the Hester Street Fair. He was super in the neighborhood and really believed in that community. And he had taken over this space on East Broadway that I think had been a pizza joint just before, but a century before had been a vegetarian Jewish restaurant. And he kind of wanted to get back to the roots of that a little bit. He didn't want it to be exclusively vegetarian, but he wanted it to be vegetable heavy. And he wanted it to be something that was a special place, but also approachable for the neighborhood. And then we had this giant wood-burning oven smack in the middle of the dining room that had been put in to make pizza. And he wanted to make sure that that saw some use, which, fair enough, it was an incredible piece of equipment. And that was the first time that I got to start playing with fire in a kitchen. And I was resolved that I didn't want to make pizza, so I had to figure out every other thing that I could cook in there. And that was such an eye-opening experience. I was honestly just shoving things in there, seeing what worked and what didn't. And we discovered so much. One of my favorite things, when the fire in a wood-burning oven goes out at the end of the night, you have all of this heat that's, held in the walls and that slowly dissipates over time. So to put the fire out, if there's still embers burning, and to close the oven, you just put a door on the front and it sort of seals the oven shut. There's no oxygen, the fire goes out, and then the heat slowly drops over the course of the night. What we realized was that this actually led to a pressure spike, because when you have heat in a sealed system, the pressure skyrockets, and pressure encourages the Maillard reaction. So we would wrap whole cabbages in foil and then just place it on the deck of the wood oven, seal that bad boy up, and the next morning come in, crack it open, and the entire cabbage would be intact but totally caramelized.
Wow. And
all it needed, it was smoky, it was sweet, it was sour, it was incredibly complex. We would just add like a little bit of salt, and you would have this incredible relish just made on pure cabbage. We were doing steaks in there, roasting cauliflower, embered beets, leeks. We were doing brunches. I would cook grits and shrimp and eggs. We were doing lamb neck braised in its own juices, served with potato pancakes that we would cook on the deck of the wood oven. I mean, it was probably the most fun that I had creating food since my career started.
Yeah, I just ate and I'm getting hungry listening to you. Describe that. But yeah, is that space now what became Mission Chinese? And then I think it's a place called Casino? Or
that's that
Broadway?
Space, yeah.
Okay.
So after I left Rosette, it kept going for a little while. But, to be honest, like some of the choices that we made, they really wanted a burger on the menu. And I made a really good burger.
I bet.
Yeah, but, the moment you put a burger on the menu, you just kill your business in a lot of ways, unless you start charging $40 for the burger. But it was East Broadway, Two Bridges. That wasn't for the neighborhood, so...
Yeah, and I don't know if you've been down there since you've been back, but that neighborhood, they opened streets and they've been like Chervos and all that's taken over the block, and it's quite a happening neighborhood.
Yeah, I was back in New York a couple of years ago. I took our former head chef down there for like a little inspiration tour, and I walked him down to Dimes Square, and we ended up having drinks at 9 Orchard. But the whole neighborhood has changed so much. I mean, the streets were just full of people. So, that neighborhood has shifted a lot, but it was at the time, and this is 2013, 2014, the neighborhood was underdeveloped, and to make a neighborhood restaurant meant being price accessible, but it was a huge space and really hard to run and turn around. And I think that they, at some point, just decided it wasn't paying off in the way that it needed to, and Mission Chinese needed a home, and so they decided to switch over, and it was a perfect space for Mission Chinese, I think.
Yeah, they had a good run. It was a very hot restaurant when they came in, and So when did you leave and come to Copenhagen, and what was your first job when you came here?
I left New York in the summer of 2014, and I landed here. I didn't have a plan. I trailed at Noma, but realized that I was getting in at 8. I was leaving at 2 in the morning, and Camilla was asleep when I would leave, and she was asleep when I would get home. And I asked the guy that I was working alongside, like, what time do you get in? Because he was beating me every day. He was like, yeah, when I wake up. I was like, what time is that? He's like, 5, 6.
That's a little early.
Yeah. And he was telling me how he would come in on Mondays to make sure that he could get ahead on prep. And I was like, well, all right, that, fair enough, but I'm going to be divorced in, 6 months if I do this. So that's a no. And then I trailed for Thorsten Vildgaard at Studio.
Wow.
Yeah, who's had a very good week. He just got 3 stars 2 nights ago.
Very fortunate that I got to go to Dubai earlier this year, and I went to FCN, and I met him, and 3 Michelin stars.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I mean, he's an incredible talent, and he's been working for that. I don't know, something in the water at the Vildgaard house, I guess, when they were growing up.
Yeah, another 3 stars. And I just got to dine there the other night.
Yeah.
As Jordnaer.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of stars in that family.
Yeah. They're doing all right. Let's hope they don't have any more siblings hidden behind the walls or something who can also cook, because then Copenhagen's going to be run by the Vildgaards. But he's an incredibly kind and talented guy, and he actually offered that I should run. They had a bistro beneath studio called Almanac, and they needed a head chef, and so he asked me to come in and run that. And I'll be honest, I was doing pretty well in New York. I had a good career. I had a lot of press. I felt like I really knew what I was doing. So I came into this restaurant and I thought to myself, I'm a big New York chef. What I cook, these people will eat and they'll be grateful for it. I was not prepared for the Danes. I was not prepared for the differences in dining culture, for the differences in the way that people just perceived food. I mean, 2014, you could serve a sizzling slab of pork belly on, as a main course. And in America, in New York, people would just eat that right up. You serve the same thing in Denmark. They would surgically remove all of the fat, push it to the side of the plate, and then eat the meat, and then complain that there wasn't enough. If you served a New York strip, like a sirloin, people would send it back because it was too chewy. Could be aged meat, could be perfectly cooked, but if they had to cut it with more than their eyelid, it was too chewy.
Okay, so when did you know you wanted to open your own restaurant? Or was this something in the back of your mind always, or back in New York? Or was it when you were cooking here and getting to know how the Danes like to eat?
It had been a dream for a long time to open my own restaurant. I tried in New York a couple of times, but nothing really came to fruition. But it was just always sort of the goal. I, to be honest, didn't really love working for other people. I learned a lot from a lot of amazing people and had a lot of amazing mentors, but I just felt like we would have, I didn't like the idea that decisions would be made and then something would go wrong and all of a sudden the entire, all of those decisions would go out the window and values wouldn't be adhered to. And I'm a very values-driven person. And I knew that I wanted to run my own team, my own way. And as Camilla and I were together privately, we also began to learn that maybe it was something that down the road we would want to do together because we had a very complementary skill set. And so what was my dream started to turn into our dream. And it came to a head when I got introduced to a man who was opening a restaurant in northern Michelin, so about an hour north of Copenhagen. And he was looking to hire a chef to run the place. And that sort of turned into Camilla and I would run it. We would build, this dream where we were pulling all the foods locally. The soil up there is really rich. There were people fishing right off the coast there, and that we would create this year-round restaurant that would serve a lot of guests in the summer, and then still be ambitious enough to ideally pull some people in the winter months to an area that's otherwise just for summer holiday. And that fell through sort of in the 25th hour. And Camilla and I were very sad and disappointed, but we were also in this position where we looked at each other and we said, look, we know what we want to do now. We built that dream in our heads. We figured out who we would each be in that dream of a restaurant. Why don't we do it in a place that we love and understand, Copenhagen? And so we started looking for spaces.
And what year is this now?
This is, we started looking, that was summer of 2017.
Okay.
We started in earnest to build our own place. And we found the space and started planning it in the fall of 2017, and we opened at the end of May 2018. Yeah.
And you were in a different space, and this is Alouette.
Yeah, so this is the restaurant that we opened was Alouette, but we were in a totally different location than we are currently. So we had found an old envelope factory in the what used to be the industrial neighborhood of Copenhagen that had been converted into practice rooms for rock bands. And on the second floor, so the first floor in Europe, right? There was a open terrace that people would smoke on at the time, and then 4 practice rooms surrounding it. So we took over those 4 practice rooms and that terrace and closed it in with a orangerie and opened up all the walls and then rebuilt that whole space as a open kitchen restaurant with a dining room that could seat, I think it was 32 guests. It was an incredible space. It was a huge risk. because it was impossible to get into if you didn't know. Every door had a coded lock on it. We could put signage by a locked automatic port, but that gave no indicator for how to get into the restaurant. So physically, we would go out to the street and greet guests there and bring them up through an old freight elevator into this graffiti-covered hallway, and then open a graffiti-covered door. And we had this beautiful wood-carved door that was made by the furniture workshop that was below the restaurant. And then you felt like you were stepping through the doors into like a whole nother world.
I'm smiling because I'm like, sorry, I missed that experience. That's pretty cool. I mean, talk about hospitality, people, greeting outside and bringing people into a place where you're sort of a little mysterious. Like, where am I going? What is this meal going to be like?
We loved that mystery. And we also loved, and one of the things we still do in this location is we love meeting people before they expect it. So often in restaurants, you have to physically walk into the space and hope that maybe you're seen, and then you have to tell someone your name. It's as though you're not expected,
Yeah. And I got to experience that here as you did greet me by the door and bring me in, and it was very special. The fact that I got to dine here was a true highlight of this trip, and I'll share more about my solo dining experience, but it's very special to feel the hospitality from the moment you arrive.
We think, the food is one thing. Of course, the food is incredibly important, and I'm a chef, so ego is always going to say, food should be number one. But at the end of the day, you can have a meal with great food and terrible service, and you'll have a bad meal. Mm-hmm. But terrible food and great service, and you can still have a great meal.
Yeah, no, it's how people make you feel. The more I dine out, the more I get that.
Yeah.
Because the delicious food, yes, you want delicious food and you want to enjoy every bite. But if you don't feel you're treated nicely or you don't feel welcome, you don't want to go back. You don't want to recommend it to people, even if food's great.
People want to feel seen. Mm-hmm. They want to feel welcomed. They want to feel expected. They want to feel like they're a part of something. Being able to welcome people as though they're friends. We put it to new employees as, when you go to a friend's house, did they greet you at the front door with open arms and by name, or did they sit in the couch and wait for you to come in and say, who are you again? Yeah. Are you supposed to be here? Oh, yes. Philip, welcome. That when you think about it in that context, of course, that feels alien. So we're always trying to show people they are friends here. They are welcome. We don't know them yet, but we're gonna. Right. And that getting to know each other process is what's going to make some things, wonderful and exciting and memorable. So we were in this old building and it was incredible, but it was really hard to run a business there. We had a bunch of drug addicts around us. The guy who had his room next to us he's in prison now for attempted murder after threatening some of our employees and myself. And that's not the attempted murder that we're talking about. It's something else entirely. We had other people who threatened us. Some of the bands there were super cool and really up for us being there. And we really tried to keep to ourselves as much as possible. And we really tried to do things around the building to help it out without changing the vibe and the environment. But at some point, we had gotten a star and we had just grown and grown and grown. And we realized there's no more growing to do in this building without changing the building entirely. And we end up using so much of our energy and time trying to resolve problems that are completely external to our business, or should be, trying to navigate the politics of this massive building with all of these people sort of stacked on top of each other. And so we began to look for a new space, and we found this much bigger space in a historic building, smack in the middle of Copenhagen, right on the south side of the King's Garden, with landlords who were just really ready to try something new and extraordinary. And this has been a crazy journey here.
The space is amazing, walking up to the building and the entrance and the whole design. It's very special. I'm curious, when you opened the original Alouette in 2018, is that, and then what happened during the years of COVID? I mean, I think it was a little different here than in New York, what we went through with shutdowns, but how did that play into the restaurant? Were you closed during that time? And you opened here last year, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So COVID was a challenging time for us, just like everybody else. There were, I think, almost 6 month periods where we were closed. Maybe one was 4 months and one was about 6 months. So in 2020, we went to the Michelin Gala in February. We got our green star on top of our Michelin-star.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Then we came back and we had 3 or 4 very busy weeks, and then all of a sudden we could see that something was changing. We were getting a lot of cancellation calls. We were reading the news, and it was starting to get a little concerning, not just for the business, but really for our staff, because we didn't know what was happening. And so we made the decision in mid-March that we were going to close our doors. It was a Saturday night. And we took the whole team in and we said, hey, we're going to shut down. We don't know for how long. We're not going to let anybody go. We're going to keep everybody for as long as the business can. Usually we work for the business. Right now the business works for us. We weren't going to let anybody go for financial reasons if we could avoid it. And we closed everything up. And then 2 days later, the Danish government said, we're shutting down. And then a week after that, they said that they would help restaurants and businesses that were closed down with some of the costs, some of the fixed costs, and some of the labor costs. So we spent that time, we did online courses. We did a leadership course with somebody from CBS over Zoom, CBS being the Copenhagen Business School. We tried to enrich ourselves and each other as a team. We walked the team through the construction of the business from a financial side so that if and when they decided to do their own restaurant, they might have some context for it. And we kept everybody so that when we could reopen at 100%. We had a couple of people who decided to, take different paths over that time, and that was a little frustrating, but it was amazing to come in and be able to get right back to it. And in Denmark, when we were closed, everything was fully shut down. But when we were open, it was kind of like there were almost no restrictions. And we had called every guest. We take a deposit on our reservations. We had called every single guest that had been booked, and we had asked them if they would like to convert their deposit into a gift card. So we had built in this ready demand. So again, the moment that the doors opened, we were just full. And then we hit fall, and that's when restrictions started to come back again. They told us we needed to close earlier, so we lost our second seating, but we opened a second dining room elsewhere in the building. So we would run 3 simultaneous services, one in our main dining room, then an hour later in our private dining room, and then hour to 30 minutes after that, another seating in our atelier, which was a design studio that we had outfitted as a restaurant space.
Because this was in the other space, correct?
Yeah, this is in the old space. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So we were just making do and trying to survive and trying to slow the bleeding. We were going to lose money no matter what, but it was just about trying to lose less. Then closed again, then open again. And then so we got through all of that, and then had an amazing 22 and 23. 23 was exceptional, but it was in 23 that we decided we need a change. And we closed the doors there in December 23. This took a little longer than expected, but then we opened here in July 24.
And this space is really special. I mean, as I said, you walk through the courtyard, and you do have an open kitchen, which was nice. I was sitting nearby. And talk a little about the menu you're doing here, because it's a tasting menu. And I had a beautiful juice pairing with my meal, and it was also delicious, beautifully presented. How do you describe your cuisine?
We are focused on Danish agriculture and Danish terroir. So before we moved, we had a shorter menu format, but each dish was focused on one or two farmers. When we moved here, we wanted to expand that. So we have more courses. It ranges from, 12 to 16 different preparations, sometimes more, divided into what we call plots. So a series of dishes focused on an individual farmer, where the dishes feature their products and try and embody their terroir, their growing techniques, their values, because the farm-to-table movement was sort of skipped in Denmark, right? It went from this very French cuisine and a frankly underdeveloped dining scene to New Nordic, where the top-line focus was first foraging and then fermentation. Of course, when you look at restaurants at the top level who are practicing those things, the geraniums, the nomas, the cadeaux, they're doing local and responsible sourcing and finding excellent product. But the trickle-down effect is that when restaurants are trying to grasp on to the gastro-tourism that's coming to have the Noma experience, they are sort of grabbing on to the top-line elements, right? They say, okay, we're going to cover a dish in sorrel. They're paying attention to and putting all their energy into sourcing that sorrel and picking it just so they're not necessarily paying attention to the pork that's underneath. And so all of a sudden it became about what the chefs could do with the things that they found out in the wild. And the farmers were kind of out there, but Danish cuisine wasn't really moving away from these very industrialized products. And if you go to a grocery store, you could find, ramson, wild garlic in little pots, but you can't find kale fresh. That seems criminal. Right. Like in a country where there's potatoes are on every single plate, we have 3 types that you can buy in the grocery store. And they classify them as big, small, and new.
Yeah.
In a country where cabbage is everywhere, all you can get is 2 types, red and white. When I would call my greengrocer and ask about squash like courgettes, he would say I could get yellow or green, which are not varietals. But then he could tell me about, exactly where the chickweed that his forager had picked was coming from, and he could promise me that no dog had peed on it. And that felt a little scary to me. And when I would talk to Danes about great product, they would talk about Italy or France. It was never, you should get this thing from this part of Denmark or that thing from that part of Denmark. The pride in the land, and this is a country with 80% of the land allocated to agriculture. Only Bangladesh has a higher percentage of agricultural land. There was no pride in the land here. And so that's really what we dig into in this restaurant.
So you have a special pig farmer.
Yeah.
Paul the pig farmer.
Paul the pig farmer.
Paul the pig farmer is working with you on many of the dishes I had the other night. And talk a little about Paul.
Yeah, so we have a plot around pork right now where we're using Paul's pigs and trying to express his values, right? Pork is the number one agricultural export. It's like pork and dairy. I think there's 5 pigs for every Dane in any given year. So we have millions upon millions of pigs in this country. But they're just grown very quickly, no care for the quality. The fat is chewy because they're cutting off all the good bits. They're sending them out of the country. And then Danish cuisine has built itself around using the bits that are not good enough to sell as export, right? So there's a lot of just cheap, bad pork in this country. And Paul took a different angle. He keeps his pigs with the mother until they run out of milk, which gives them an incredibly robust immune system. So they don't need penicillin. His pigs don't get sick. They never see concrete. They forage around his farm. He grows a lot of things solely for the pigs to eat. So Jerusalem artichokes and pulses and legumes like field peas. There are apples. It's an old orchard. So apples fall from the trees and the pigs get to eat that. He brings them seaweed in the winter months. They live for twice as long as your average Danish pig, at least. Sometimes 3 times as long. And the quality and the taste and the texture of the meat is exceptional. It's a luxury product, and it's a luxury product that Danes are, that this culture is trained to think of as a cheap product. And so we really want to show it off. We want to, we use the opportunity to give our guests a lot of presentations centered around that pork, but also coupled with the things that they eat. So we do a broth infused with herbs that the pigs are foraging that the guest drinks.
It's a fabulous broth.
Thank you so much. And then we bring snacks. We do a trotter terrine between crackers made on the skins with apple glazed ears on the top, a pancake made from field peas and pork fat filled with raw and blackened Jerusalem artichoke. We do a little skewer on the rib, cooked slowly in seaweed and then glazed with a seaweed stout. And then we finish with the loin, which we do all of our hot cooking over open fire here. And we do an interval cook on the loin. So these very short bursts of heat, high intensity heat with long rests in between. So you get this caramelization on the outside, but a very even cook on the inside. Sort of our manual sous vide almost. And then we just slice that, glaze it in pork fat, top it off with a fermented plum and shiso relish that we make. And then underneath is a paste on fermented wild garlic stems. And then a broth from the trotters and a little Japanese milk bread on the side to scoop, make a little sandwich, do whatever makes you happy.
Fantastic bread. Now I'm smiling again because when I dine solo, people who are intimidated or have never dined solo, you usually get the whole bread for yourself, which might be for 2 people. But yeah, the bread was delicious, and
that's the pleasure of dining solo is that restaurants don't scale these things down for you. You just got to go full on into the bread.
Yeah, I think you're generous with your bread for everyone here. Yeah, the bread was fantastic, and the whole meal was, and your staff was so lovely. I really enjoyed my whole experience. And how often are you changing the menu?
Constantly. We, on average, change at least 1 dish a week.
I was going to say, I was here 2 days ago. Is it different?
It will be different. From next week, we'll change 4 dishes. Okay. So we changed 6 dishes next week. Sorry. Yeah. So we're right in the middle of a season shift. So spring has finally, it's mid-late May. That is still early spring from an agricultural perspective in Denmark. So asparagus have just started. So we are phasing out some vegetable preparations that we were doing and pivoting to some asparagus preparations at the start of the meal. And then moving into rhubarb and new potato for dessert. We will change 6 dishes in the next, between today and next Wednesday.
Do you do the sweet too? Do you have a pastry chef? Because you just said dessert. So I'm thinking sometimes savory chefs aren't doing desserts, but is it all you?
I think something that I should be really clear about is that I don't believe that this is the Nick show.
Da, 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 the Nick show.
The Nick show. No, this is a collective effort. So we have a pastry chef de partie. I have an assistant head chef. We have sous chefs. We've split the kitchen essentially. We have these plots, right? These series of dishes based on these farmers. Each of these plots has a team allocated to it. We're not separating people according to technical ability, saying, okay, this one's garde manger, you do cold dishes. That one's poissonnière, you do fish, you're saucier. Each plot hits a range of techniques. They'll have hot dishes and cold dishes. They'll work with meat or fish or both. They'll work with the fire. They'll do sauce work. They'll do cold preparations. And then each of these teams works on a flat hierarchy. Overall, the kitchen has, instead of the very peaked hierarchy of a brigade system, which is a top-down system, it's much, much flatter than that. There's a lot of feedback loops built in. We ask for creative input from the plot chefs. We ask them to be the most educated on these plots and communicate out to the whole team about what's going on with their farms, what's going on with their dishes. We want to train people to be leaders in small ways and big ways. We want to train people to work collaboratively, and we want to bring all sorts of ideas and influences into what we do. So if we boil it all down, we have an R&D chef that the assistant head chef and I collaborate with to move the menu forward. But we try and pull all sorts of different people and all sorts of different ideas in. And it's not me standing with these dishes on my own and saying, this is the next piece of genius. It's because it's changing so often. It requires an enormous amount of creative effort, an enormous amount of constant work, and we can only do that as a whole team. Yeah. So I have a hand in desserts, but I also don't have a hand in desserts. It depends on the day and the project and the need. And
no, that's wonderful. Team effort. We've been chatting a while. I want to play my speed round game with you, but before we get to that, I want to know, what advice would you give to someone listening who may want to be a chef, may want to run their own restaurant, may want to move to Copenhagen from the US or from anywhere else they are? You've been through a lot. I mean, congratulations on all the stages of your career and how you've gotten here today. I mean, you have a ton of experience and you now have this beautiful restaurant you run with your wife and your team. So what's your advice for someone listening who may want to get into this crazy world of being a chef?
That's, I have zero regrets about how I've gotten to where I've gotten.
Yeah.
But I also can't recommend anybody to take the path that I've taken, because it's been what's right for me. Mm-hmm. What I will say is that I think that as chefs, it's really important to understand your purpose and your values. And then just put your energy into pursuing those. Think about not just about what food you want to make, but the environment you want to create. And not just for your guests, but for the people that you work with, the people that you buy from. That could be in the US, that could be in Copenhagen, that could be in, London, wherever. What we do is important. We feed people. But as chefs or restaurant owners, what we do is important in that we also choose what our industry is going to look like in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And we all know it has to change. Better get started now. So choose what drives you and then run after that, come hell or high water. I think that's maybe my advice. Yeah.
I love it. And do you love being a chef owner? I mean, it was something you wanted to do, or it was a goal. Is it everything? Is it everything you imagined and more?
I do love it. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, there's you get into cooking because you love to cook, and then you find that you get to do less and less of that, sort of the further you go. But it's beautiful because I'm the master of my own fate. And that I get to set waypoints and watch a team develop and a culture develop, and watch everybody push towards that waypoint together. It's really moving, and it gives me reason. So I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah. Even in the hardest moments.
Fabulous. And now I'm the master of your fate, because we're going to play my speed round.
Uh-oh.
So what this is I'm going to name a couple of things, and you get to pick your preference, such as chocolate or vanilla.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. Eat in at home or eat out at a restaurant?
At home.
Indoor dining or al fresco dining?
Indoor.
Yeah, we're in Copenhagen. No, it's beautiful out today.
Yeah.
It's a little warmer. Sun is out. And you're right by the park. I mean, yeah, this location's really cool.
Thanks.
For many reasons. Okay. Wine, beer, cocktail, non-alcoholic drink, or champagne?
Cocktail.
Tasting menu or a la carte?
A la carte.
Small plates or large plates?
Small plates.
Communal table or chef's counter?
Chef's counter.
You have a couple seats, a little chef's counter
we
here.
do, yeah.
I like that. How about tipping or all-inclusive charge?
All-inclusive. No. Damn. It's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Wait, are we talking hidden charge? You know, where they tack on the automatic percentage at the end?
No, more the all-inclusive, no tip versus not automatic. I mean, I think restaurants nowadays, they sometimes show you what 20% is or 22. But we're talking like just all paid, all-inclusive, or adding a tip. And also here, I mean, maybe I get a little confused when I'm traveling.
Yeah.
What is customary? Because some of the places I've been to here, they say, if you'd like to leave a gratuity, and I'm then not sure, so...
I can clarify that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please do.
So if it's all-inclusive in the Copenhagen sense, then yes, all-inclusive. If it's all-inclusive in the, we've added a 15% or 20% service charge on top of your menu price, then not all-inclusive. In Denmark, they don't refer to tips as tips. They refer to it as drikkepenge, which means drinking money, because it's very literally a tip. It is, if you feel like you have an exceptional experience, you could leave a small amount, anywhere from 5 to 10%, if you feel so moved, and the staff will appreciate it greatly, but it is not something that they rely on.
Because if you go to a restaurant here and you have amazing experience, but maybe, I don't know, maybe you're watching the budget or whatever reason, but you don't leave an extra tip, it's not seen as like you didn't appreciate the experience. Or the extra tip shows you really appreciated it, and it would be appreciated to leave it.
It is not an obligation.
Okay.
There is no discussion of, you should always leave a percentage like this at whatever restaurant you go, which is the conversation in the U.S.
Yes.
Everybody here in Denmark is paid a living wage, a salary to do their job. And that comes out of the operations of the restaurant, exclusive of tipping. And then tipping is, in this restaurant, for example, dispersed evenly through the entire staff. And so it's a small amount of money that they don't rely on or that I hope they don't rely on. But it is an indicator that, gave really great service.
Okay.
So you do not have an obligation to tip people.
Got it.
In Denmark. I think if you go out to a nice restaurant where you have an excellent meal or excellent service experience, even just leaving a little bit is nice, but it does not need to be a significant percentage.
Right. Okay.
I tip everywhere.
Yeah.
But I don't calculate 10% or 20%. I do what moves me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And we lost the speed, and I don't even remember if you answered the question.
Yeah, all inclusive. Okay. Tips are all.
I mean, it was a good conversation. It was a good conversation.
I just needed more
and
detail.
thank you, and to anyone traveling here, well, thank you too.
Yeah.
So we know. Okay, a few more. Popple burger, or just Popple? I think it's just Popple, or gasoline grill.
Gasoline grill.
Just quick on that one. I've had them both. They're both good. I'd like to go back to gasoline grill. The one time I went to Tivoli. Yeah, it's good.
You should try Fatties.
Oh, I don't even know about Fatties.
Yeah, exactly. It's in Islandsbrygge. It's like a window. But it's not a smash burger, which, I love a good smash burger, but now it's a little played out. But I like Fatties a lot. Really good fries, just a good grilled burger, nice generous pickles, good cheese. It's great. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but damn good burger.
Good to know. An easy name to remember.
Yeah, Fatties.
Okay, how about biking or walking or driving or flying or any other mode of transportation? But we are here in Copenhagen.
Then you know the answer is biking. Yeah.
Serious, even though I've been here several times, serious biking culture.
Yeah, don't get mixed up into it if you're not prepared to use all the hand signals and stay to the right, and people are hardcore in this country.
And look both ways for crossing the street for me. Okay, my last two are cheese plate or dessert.
Dessert.
Copenhagen or New York City?
Copenhagen.
Woohoo! That's the game.
All right.
Well, yeah, I like visiting. Who knows? Maybe I'll move here one day. I just need to layer.
Easy. Yeah. They don't make it easy to move here, I'll tell you that. It's really hard to get a visa. So got to find a Dane to, get hitched to, or somebody to sponsor you. It's easier said than done.
Never know.
You never know. But it's an amazing country.
Yeah.
An amazing country.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. And I loved hearing your story because I only knew a few bits and pieces of it, and missed you somehow in New York. I bet we were in the same room or restaurant from time to time, but didn't really get to know you. So it's nice to get to know you now.
Well, I'm so happy. Yeah, we got to cross paths, and thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
My pleasure. And thanks for having me. I really loved my dinner. I look forward to coming back. Wishing you much success with you and your whole team. And cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Welcome back to All in the Industry. I'm your host and producer, Shari Bayer, and I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Nick Curtin, the chef and owner of Alouette in Copenhagen, Denmark, which I recorded in the late spring on location. And it was really special to be there and have time to spend with Nick and, of course, dine at his beautiful restaurant. So thank you, Nick, and thank you to your entire team and to your wife, Camilla, who I got to meet as well. I appreciate your warm welcome, and also a big thanks to Hillary Eaton Werner, who set everything up for us. To find out more about Nick and his restaurant, you can go to restaurantalouette.dk. That's restaurant, ALOUETTE.dk. And you can follow him on social media at Nick Curtin Alouette. And that's NICKCURTIN Alouette. And at Restaurant Alouette. Okay, it's time for my solo dining experience. This week, it's at Jordnaer. Here's the rundown. The location. Gentofte 29 in Gentofte, Denmark, which is on the outskirts of Copenhagen. It's about a 20-minute car ride from the center of Copenhagen, and it's located at the Gentofte Hotel. The concept, a love story. A former gang enforcer found the right path in life through unconditional love toward his wife and gastronomy, and created a seafood-focused fine dining restaurant in Denmark, which currently holds 3 Michelin stars. The chef and owners? Well, the love story couple is Chef Kragh Vildgaard and his wife Tina Kragh Vildgaard, who runs front of house. So why'd I go? Well, I had heard wonderful things about this restaurant and its story. And I had met Eric at the Best Chef Awards in 2024 in November in Dubai. And we did an interview as part of my On the Road coverage, which is episode 403. And I was on a mission for my next visit to Copenhagen to go to Jordnaer because I wanted to experience the true magic. And it was truly magical. I will also note that at the Best Chef Awards 2024, Jordnaer earned the number 3 spot on their list, as well as 3 knives, which is incredible. So my experience. I reached out to the restaurant and was able to get a reservation for 1 on the early side on a weekday. And when I arrived at the restaurant, I was warmly greeted by Tina, who was waiting outside for me and led me into the hotel lobby and into the restaurant and showed me to my table, which was a large round table near the kitchen in the corner of this very spacious, beautiful restaurant that had natural light permeating in, because at this time of year, the days are longer. So there was lots of natural light. And Tina's wearing her signature all white suit. And Chef came out also in his whites and greeted me. So there was a light energy and warmth of the place, which was special. And we chatted a little bit, and he gave me the rundown of the menu, which was a long tasting menu, very well paced. I never felt like it was too much. It was just all fantastic. It was beautifully presented. Started with little bites, and they were just exquisite. And it was just such a lovely tasting menu, which I did with their non-alcoholic pairing. And they even had a herbal cart towards the end, which was cool. I'd never seen that before. I've seen different carts. I've seen dessert carts or cheese carts, but this was the first herbal cart. And the whole team was really great. And they had a record player also on one end playing some 80s tunes and beats, kept for a fun, yet completely refined dining experience. And I was there for several hours. I met a chef who was in town from Singapore, TC from Zen, which was actually a part of the Franzen group, which has their signature restaurant Franzen in Stockholm, as well as FZN in Dubai, which I was able to go to earlier this year. And fun fact, Eric's brother Torsten is the chef there, and they just earned 3 Michelin stars as well. So both Eric and his brother have 3 Michelin stars each, which is pretty much unheard of. I don't know of any other 2 brothers who have that, or any other siblings who have that. If you listeners know of anyone, let me know. I'd be curious. And so TC is the chef of Zen in Singapore, which is the 3rd restaurant, a part of the Franzen group. So that's how this all ties together. And he was also dining solo. So that was cool. We all took a picture together in the kitchen when we got a little tour. And It was just a really special evening. And on Instagram, when I posted about the restaurant, which I will post again, I wrote, "True joy, love my solo dining experience featuring beautifully delicious tasting menu with an NA drink pairing." So that is all true. What did I get? So the tasting menu was over 15 courses. As I said, it was an extensive tasting menu, but mostly of small bites and dishes. So it was a lot of food, but it wasn't too much. It was perfect. And I had, I believe, 6 NA drinks with my pairing, which were all lovely. And some of the dishes I had, there was snow crab with sudachi and white wine, lobster with uzu and sancho pepper, bluefin otoro with miyoga and caviar, waffle. There was scallops with gooseberry and rose, green asparagus with almond and caviar, hamachi with ponzu and wasabi, bread and butter. There was turbo with ramson and blue mussels, langoustine, sakura, and one of the desserts, leatherwood honey with milk and Polynesian vanilla. My pairing, it was called the Clear Vision, which I thought was a fun name. And some of the drinks I had were cucumber cooler, grapefruit grove sour, umami kumba tea, and sweet whey and jasmine. My take, really loved everything from start to finish. The small bites at the beginning were all gorgeous, beautifully presented, and delicious. And some of my favorite bites were the snow crab, the lobster, the bluefin otoro with caviar. Chef is known for using a good deal of caviar, and it was delicious caviar, as well as the langoustine. I love seafood, so I really appreciated it all. So the ambiance. It's a minimalistic, light, rectangular dining room, which has some light gray beams and beige tones and a beautiful light wood floor and windows across one side of the restaurant, which, as I said, had lots of natural light permeating in when I had arrived. And the tables are very out. I'd say it's perfect for any seafood lover who appreciates a fine dining experience with warm hospitality. Interesting tidbit. The restaurant name is taken from the Danish word meaning down to earth and remains true to form. The food is elegant but not intimidating. Personal fun fact. So this trip in Copenhagen, here are other places that I dined, all of which I recommend. So first off, I went back to Cohen, which is chef and owner Christian Bauman's restaurant, which I've now been to 3 times, which is pretty amazing. And this was a part of a group media dinner, and it was fantastic. Thank you, Christian, and his manager, Sebastian. I love your restaurant. I also went back to an industry favorite, I would say. It's called Koidian's Fiskabar, and they're known for seafood. And this time I got their raw brill, and I always get oysters. It's like you can't not get oysters there. And they were wonderful. I also went to Alouette, as you know, and I had schmorboard at Restaurant Montegade and Selma. Both were excellent. And I got pastries at Juno the Bakery, which I'd say is a must visit while in Copenhagen. There's a lot of great bakeries and coffee shops. I hit this time Prologue, Anderson Millard, which I also had a chocolate croissant at, which was pretty amazing. And also I went to Orsa Coffee, Coffee Collective, and there might have been more coffee and pastries in there, but those are some highlights. I also went to a restaurant called Sex, which is spelled Seks, and that was great. And I went back to my friend Bo Beck's Boba and sat at the kitchen table solo again. which is so special. I love dining there at his restaurant and being able to sit and watch the chefs in action. It's a really lovely setting. His whole restaurant is beautiful. It's got good bones. The whole space, the downstairs, it's such a cool spot. We're smack in the middle of Copenhagen. So I'm happy for Bo. I also checked out Sushi Inaba, and I had an omakase there of Nordic sushi, which was really nice. I went to another industry favorite, a wine bar that recently opened called Bar Vitrine. I met the chef there, Driti Aurora, who was lovely, and her team. And I had a really great dinner there at their communal table. I also went to a late night Indonesian spot, or I was there on the later side, called Saji, which was recommended to me by Camilla, Nick's wife at Alouette, and they are fans of this restaurant. So that's how I ended up there, and I met the chefs Samuel Tobing and Jimmy Orlando, who were so nice, and I had a really great time dining there solo at their chef's counter, and they took really nice care of me, so thank you. I also had a fabulous communal lunch as part of the Spora event, which Chef Jesper Kragh did in the seasonal farm-to-table experience and an outdoor tent. We had many delicious dishes, including a large turbo. And I think those are the highlights. And there's so many restaurants in Copenhagen I hope to go back to that I love, including Cadeau and Yatak and Noma and Alchemist and On the Casual and Juju and Based, and I could go on and on. Copenhagen is just a restaurant haven. I love it. Okay, so the cost of my meal at Jordnaer, the tasting menu is over $400. I was comped, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So thank you so much to Eric and Tina. I appreciate you guys so much and what you're doing, and I'm just grateful for the experience and knowing you, and huge congratulations on all you've accomplished and your love story. It's inspiring. So thank you. I hope to see you both again soon. Would I go back? Of course, yes. Their website is restaurantjordnaer.dk, and that's restaurant, JORDNAER.dk, and on social at Restaurant Jordnaer, and Eric at EV Jordnaer, and at Tina_Kragh, and that's KRAGH. Okay, so that's the show. Thank you again to Nick Curtin, chef and owner of Alouette in Copenhagen, Denmark. Again, his website is restaurantalouette.dk, and on social at Nick Curtin Alouette and at Restaurant Alouette. And thank you to Camilla and to Hillary and his entire team. What a special restaurant. I hope to return soon. And congratulations on all you've accomplished. And let me know if you're back in New York City. It would be great to hang with you here as well. Okay, you can follow me on social. I'm at Shari Bayer, at Bayer PR, and at All Industry. My YouTube channel and Facebook page are All in the Industry. And you can find all of our episodes at allintheindustry.com, as well as wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you get a moment, please leave us a rating or review. It will help more people find our show. Check out my other websites, BayerPublicRelations.com and ShariBayer.com, and my book, Chefwise, Life Lessons from Leading Chefs Around the World by Phaidon, available wherever books are sold. Many thanks, as always, to my engineer, Armin Spendagian. I appreciate you. I'm your host and producer, Shari Bayer. I will be back soon with a new show. I hope you'll tune in then. And thank you, as always, for being part of All in the Industry. Bye. All in the Industry is an independent podcast hosted and produced by Shari Bayer. Follow us on Instagram at All Industry and on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, All in the Industry. Subscribe to our show wherever you listen to your podcasts so you don't miss any new episodes. To learn more, visit allintheindustry.com.